Hey, this is Walt from StogieReview.com, here to do a short ashes cigar review for you. And I've got to be honest, I really don't have my stuff together here. I was sort of digging around in the cooler looking for a cigar that was fairly small because I'm under a little bit of a time constraint. I'm trying to get in a cigar before dinner and then have one after dinner. So I was looking for something relatively small while I had a quiet house and had a little bit of free time. And what I ended up finding was the very last of my Esencia samples. I guess it was a couple of months ago now. Mark Aub from Polio was kind enough to send Brian, Jerry, and I each a sample of each size of the cigar to get us to allow us to try it. And the reason this is a short ashes review is because Brian and Jerry did a Herfing Heads video where they reviewed the Esencia. So I'm just going to go back and take a quick look at it and see if our opinions vary. Now, it's been a little while since I watched the video, and I really don't have any information pulled up in front of me as far as, you know, the cigar's makeup and things like that. Now, I am looking at the Esencia website, and it's telling me that the filler, binder, and wrapper are all Nicaraguan tobacco, and it looks like, it's just in a couple of places I've peeked real quick, that the tobacco is sort of a Corojo Criollo mixture, or it's either or, but again, I'm really not sure because I'm doing this on short notice and I really just didn't do any research. So first and foremost, this is the Petite Corona. It's a 42 by 5 1/8, and these cigars are branded 2008. Now, I know from an interview I saw or watched or listened to on Dog Watch Cigar Radio, the guys were talking to Mark, and he was saying that each year's cigar is going to be branded. Now, I don't know whether they made X amount of cigars with 2008 branding, and now they're working into 2009, or what the case may be. All of the cigars on the website are listed as 2008, and I know Mark mentioned that he wanted to put the year on each one. You know, as the stock rolled over and they were in a new production year, he wanted to mark it so that it was easy to determine whether or not you had an older stick, a newer stick, what you got if you ordered them online, you know, whatever the case may be. So, again, I really don't know whether there's a 2009 variety out yet or not, but for the time being, I'm smoking my one and only, or my last 2008, or my last Esencia altogether. Now, just looking at this cigar, pretty quick, I went ahead and opened up the cap beforehand. I've got a little bit of a crack at the foot, and these cigars don't come cellophane, at least my samples didn't, and as a result they were jostling around the bag a little bit. Something like that is to be expected, and I'm really not concerned about it. It looks like the tear sweeps back toward the foot, so I expect that to just sort of flake and fly off as soon as the foot starts burning. I really don't anticipate it giving me any issues. The color consistency is very good. It's nice and dark. It's got a little bit of a tooth to it. It's actually kind of concentrated in one spot. There are little oily dimples that stick up on the cigar. Veins are probably what, I guess, they're borderline fine and medium. You can feel a couple of them, and then there are several that are very fair and really don't project and add any sort of texture to the cigar. It feels nice and firm, and just looking at it, looks like I got a tiny little crack up toward the head too. But again, being in a plastic bag without cellophane, I'm really not surprised that the cigar's got a little damage to it. It's got a really nice earthy aroma to it. More so on the wrapper than on the foot. And the pre-light draw's got a sort of a sweet spiciness to it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing started and go from there. Now, I'm pairing this cigar up with a beer, and it is a Magic Hat summer seasonal beer. It's their summer seasonal. It's called Wacko, and it is a wheat beer, I think. But my experience with it's been pretty light and crisp, and I really don't expect it to override the cigar's flavor. I think that if anything, it might be overpowered by the cigar, which is okay. Got a really nice, heavy, clean sort of spiciness through the sinuses. A little aggressive, but very crisp and clean, and it doesn't have a sort of lingering, dirty sensation to it, which is really nice. I like it when a cigar can be powerful and still very crisp at the same time. There are no sort of lingering ill effects or anything like that. So far, this is nice, but again, one puff in. And that one's got my eyes almost ready to water. But my cigar's lit, burning easily, or evenly. It's producing lots of smoke. And that about covers the introduction. So I'll be back in a little bit. For you, it'll be just a second. We'll take a look at the first third of the Esencia 2008 Petite Corona. And we'll see what develops and what changes I may go through in the first third. So sit tight. Alright, well, I'm back, and I'm just about through the first third of my Esencia 2008, and I keep saying 2008 because I really don't know whether there's a 2009 out yet or not. But I've had to touch up the cigar one time, and I'm getting the impression that I need to pay a little more attention to the cigar than some of the other ones that I've smoked. And the reason I say that is because even though I'm not timing how often I'm puffing on the cigar in a sense, at the same time I kind of am. You see, when I do the initial cigar for a review, for the full-blown review where I'm taking notes and doing all kinds of other stuff, the cigar spends a random amount of time in the ashtray. I put it down, I jot down a note. It could be 30 seconds before I pick it up, could be 3 minutes before I pick it up. It varies. And I go by just the way the cigar feels. Do I feel like I've been smoking it a long time based on how often I've picked it up, things like that. It's just a feel. I really don't know how to describe it. When I'm smoking a cigar for pleasure, I could be doing any number of things. Having a conversation on Twitter with a number of people, conversing via email, either reading or composing email. I could be watching a video on Hulu. Different things like that, which always lead to just random acts of picking up the cigar and puffing on it. In this case, I'm doing a little bit of reading. If you're interested, I'm reading Soul of Fire by Terry Goodkin, which is book 5 of the Sword of Truth series. It is the series of books that the TV show Legend of the Seeker is based off of. So I'm reading this book, and it's book 5, and all the books that I've read so far have been. I've read 5 books in probably a month's time, maybe a little bit more than a month's time. So I've been doing a lot of reading and smoking at the same time. And even though I'm not timing the cigar in a sense, I read at the same pace, and just instinctively I know when I get so far, I can reach for the cigar and take just a split second glance away from the page, pick up the cigar, puff on it, read a little bit more, put it down. Even though it's almost like a random occurrence for me to puff on the cigar while I'm reading. It seems in my mind a little more timed than when I'm doing a structured review. So as a result, I've learned that the cigar needs a little bit more retention. I don't know whether it's because the cigar may be a little damp in terms of relative humidity. The cooler that I have this one in runs at about 67, maybe almost at 70. With the fluctuations with the summer heat, the humidity in the cooler has been a little higher than usual. So perhaps if this cigar were a little drier, I wouldn't have that issue. But to get into the smoking characteristics of it, the burn line is a little wavy. I've had to touch it up once. I I had to touch it up once because it went out, and I had to touch it up once because it was burning unevenly, enough that it was kind of bothering me. The smoke volume is good, lots of very dense smoke. It's a little aggressive on the palate, and I'm not quite sure how to describe it. It's almost like a tingling, tired sensation right across the roof of my mouth, up forward, it's almost on the line before you go from the soft palate directly behind your teeth that is very sensitive to just your regular palate, which is further back, which is less sensitive. I'm getting a little bit of irritation, like right on the line that separates the two. No irritation in my throat or nose. When I blow the smoke through my nose or through the sinuses, I'm getting a very crisp, heavy, spicy, sweet spice sort of aroma out of it. And even though it's heavy, it's very pleasant, and I'm enjoying it. One thing I noticed about the cigars, I'm getting lots of little pieces of tobacco on my lip. But body-wise, I'd say medium to full. And in the flavor department, it's got sort of a sweet spice as an aftertaste, and that initial wave of flavor is just a very upfront Nicaraguan tobacco flavor. But it's interlaced with like some woody tones, and just almost like a naturally sweet tobacco flavor, which is kind of interesting. And it makes for an interesting and complex flavor profile, I think. And you know, I'm really enjoying it at this point. But I've been babbling on for way too long, so I'm going to take a break, do a little bit more reading, and hopefully the cigar doesn't go out again. I'll make a point to pick it up a little more often, and I'll be back again. We'll take a look at the second third, unless there are no changes, and then we'll jump back and do the final third. There's no sense in me repeating myself for a second third during these short ashes reviews unless there's a change. You know, if there's a change, we'll do a second third, and then we'll do a final third. You know, that's just how it works. So sit tight. I'll be right back, and then I'll let you know whether we're going to do 2 more or 1 more. So I'll be right back. Alright, well, I'm back to do a very, very brief second third of the cigar, and the only reason I'm back, there was very little change over the first third and second third, was just that I wanted to mention that I do plan on, or I hope to be doing a full-blown review this week. I know it's been a little while since I was able to do one. You know, we had the expo to prepare for, had expo video that I wanted to produce, and with being back to work again, my whole schedule has been thrusted all around, and it's become a little difficult to get back in the groove of things again. And if everything works out to plan, I'll be able to record the review tomorrow and post it on Saturday, tomorrow being Thursday. So that's the plan. Now on to the cigar. There really isn't much change. The ash is pretty dark in color. I'm still getting plenty of smoke. The strength of the ash is moderate, I guess. It doesn't hold on really long, but then again, I've been kind of keeping the ash short intentionally. You know, I didn't want it to drop on me or the pages of my book, so I've been keeping it kind of neat and around a ½ inch at most. And it doesn't take much to knock that ash off the end of the cigar. A gentle tap will do it. Flavor-wise, I'm still getting a very rich Nicaraguan tobacco flavor. It's very obvious and very apparent. There's some richness to it that's picked up a little bit as I've smoked along, but there really hasn't been much change in the core flavor. I'm still getting some sweet spice, a very crisp feel through the sinuses, a little bit of a sweetness out of the cigar, and really that's about it. I mean, there was a little bit of richness added as I went along. You know, the smoke became a little richer and deeper, but there really weren't any distinct flavor changes throughout. You know, sometimes you get one flavor fade out, a new one fade in. It makes a very interesting dynamic in the cigar. In this case, it's been pretty consistent, at least up until this point. And it's gotten a little more aggressive also. That I was saying earlier that sort of line between across the palate is even more so agitated than it was before, and I'm getting a little bit of a tingle in the back of my throat. So there's definitely some aggressiveness to the smoke. Now, I'm not getting a headache or It's not irritating my eyes or anything like that. Just the smoke seems a little on the aggressive side, and the body's picked up a little bit since. And the finish is fairly creamy. All in all, it's turning into a very potent stick, and you know, it's probably going to be coming to a head or peaking or however you want to describe it fairly soon, and then the cigar should plateau, and we should have a nice full-bodied stick for the the remainder of what's the nub beyond the band and whatnot. But that's just speculation. So I said I wanted to keep it quick, and it really wasn't all that quick. So sit tight, I'll be back one more time. We'll do a final third, wrap up the cigar, and I'll let you be on your way. Alright, well, I am back, and it's about time to wrap up the Esencia cigar by Brother Leaf Palio. And I've got a little bit more to go, but I've got a little bit of the crack that had developed near the head is expanding a little bit, and it's causing a little bit of grief. I can feel the air rushing past my lip, so I'm gonna call it quits on the cigar in just a minute. There really hasn't been much change in terms of flavor, so I figured I'd just skip past all that stuff so I don't repeat myself and just simply go on what I think about the cigar. The only change I did notice was the body picked up a little bit more, the smoke became a little richer, but everything else remained pretty much the same. Smoke volume, the draw, the flavor level, things like that, the finish. But all in all, what do I think of the cigar? Would I smoke more of them? I be honest with you, I really don't know what the price point is on these. In a quick search, I noticed that there was a review done in the Stogie Review fan forums, and the Bellicoso was around $8, I think. So if that's the case, I would assume that this is around $6. At $6 for Petite Corona, I think it's a bit much. But again, I don't know if that's the price for sure. I'm just assuming here. I would comfortably pay about $4 for this cigar. So if it is actually more around $4, I think it's more of a value. I think it's a little aggressive for my taste. While I like a nice crisp, full-bodied cigar with lots of flavor, this one just seems to be hitting different points on my palate and just making them feel tired and run down, a little tingly, and I'm not real fond of that. I think if I had to choose another cigar in this price range, I'd be a little more inclined to smoke something like an Illusione, one of the smaller Illusiones, maybe a Top Shelf Signature Select Black Label like a Lancero, or I think he also makes a Corona Gorda. Again, they'd be bigger than this, but I think the flavors are similar, and I actually prefer the other cigars over this. Not to say it's a bad cigar, I like it. Just there are a couple of other ones that come to mind that I would enjoy more, or I think I would enjoy more. So that's all I've got for the Esencia 2008. Again, I don't know whether there's a 2009 out yet, but I'm sure there will be at some point. And for more information, excuse me, check out the video that Brian and Jerry did, the Herfing Heads video, and take a look at what the other guys from Stogie Review had to say about the Esencia. So until next time, happy smoking.